Listen, sometimes you ride the lightning, sometimes the lightning rides you. And not in a sassy way, in a 1984 Metallica kind of way. And I think we can guess which one the Calgary Flames got tonight. So Sans Victor Hedman, Blake Coleman's former squad, lit up the Flames for an 8-3 win. Thanks for joining us on Afterburner, for coming to commiserate, voice your concerns, get some stuff out in the open. I'm Cami. He's Mike. And I got to say, I felt pretty foolish during the game because when it was still close, I was looking at some scores across the league. I'm looking at Pittsburgh putting 9 past Montreal, and I was like, well, at least Calgary never lets in more than 6.
Yeah, tonight was more so fade to black, I think, for the Flames. Holy moly. I don't even know what to say. I was kind of lost for words by the end of that one. And it was a weird game because the Flames had some genuinely fun moments, memorable moments out of a game that ends up being a real shellacking at the hands of a Lightning team that is without its best defenseman, loses arguably, maybe its second or third best defenseman midway through that game. And yet they still end up just absolutely throttling the Flames on home ice, which is something that we have not been accustomed to. The Flames have lost a lot on the road, and now they suffer arguably their worst loss of the season, or at least the most lopsided, at home.
I mean, if we're going to stay with the Metallica references, we can say this was the Saint Anger of Flames games this year. You mentioned like the strength on home ice. I think coming into tonight, they had points in 10 of 14 at the Saddle Dome. And it wasn't just the home strength that kind of made you think they were going to get it together here. They're also generally so good in the third period. And tonight was so bad. So before we get into all of that, we're going to start with one of the highlights of the night because, gosh dang it, you wouldn't bet on seeing a goal like this every night.
You trying to segue something?
Hit the clip.
Well, we're talking about Nazem Kadri, right?
Yes.
I mean, come on. What was this goal? What happened with Nazem Kadri? I mean, first of all, what happened with JJ Moser? He falls down. I think he must have pulled something. I don't know what was happening there. Does not return as far as I remember for the rest of the game. I think he finished with only like 12 minutes of ice time. And then Nazem Kadri, I mean, to have the wherewithal to do that sort of pirouette spin move and fire the puck past Andrei Vasilevsky. I mean, I think this goal is going to get its flowers as one of the highlights of the early portions of this season. I think it's something that you might expect to see something from up north. I mean, it's the kind of goal that you might see on the highlight reel if McDavid scores that kind of goal. Well, Nazem Kadri just kind of one-upped him with just an incredibly acrobatic and just crazy play.
And even like the little hop over Moser. All
Yeah,
right, let's
here
take
it
a look.
is.
Up ice, Kadri. He's got some room. Kadri, spin around, shoot, scores! Oh, what a goal from Nazem Kadri.
I mean, that was the kind of goal that just kind of made me think, okay, are the Flames gonna pull this one out? Are they gonna figure this out and snatch a victory here after giving up 4 goals in a row, 3 of them in quick succession? Didn't quite turn out that way. It looked like it might for a moment there after Zary scored shortly thereafter.
The first minute of the third period is where it really started to sink them.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah, exactly.
We were trying to start off on a positive here,
and it was amazing. You can't dispute that. That was the best goal I've seen the Flames score in a long time.
Really?
Yeah. It was
fun. I don't know if that's
the best
goal. It's amazing that he stayed up on his feet.
It was the biggest highlight reel goal. That's what I'll say. There may be like better passing plays or better, smooth moves. That's a goal that's going to be like on the highlight reels. It's going to be something that you just don't ever see. And to me, I don't know, that kind of qualifies as best for me.
It does not take over Kadri's end-to-end goal.
No, against Pittsburgh.
No, I was thinking the one where he broke Kulak's ankles in one of his first games as a Flame. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I do like seeing it dubbed the ballerina goal in the chat there. So
cool.
That's some good stuff from Nazem Kadri. That'll I'll get us going here tonight. That's brought to you by Bet365, the world's largest sports betting platform. You can open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Download the app and use the code NATION when you sign up. And whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And in partnership with Bet365, we have a Super Chat charity partner this season. So we're benefiting the youth centers of Calgary. So if you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, you can hit us with the super chat, and all the proceeds from that will support youth centers of Calgary. YCC is where kids are welcomed and accepted as they are, a place where they get to have a break from the chronic stress that's a reality for a lot of kids. So open to youth age 9 to 15. It's kind of like having a safe place to go, and it's a house rather than an institutional building. And there's activities, you get to play sports, there's music, art, great stuff that can keep kids entertained and happy right now. And if you want to help out with that, the super chat's basically the little dollar sign you see in the chat. It lets you pick a sticker for purchase, and that'll support YCC. Also pumps up your message and gets it pinned to the top of our feed. So great way to ask a question, share some observations, or roast us.
Yep.
For a good cause.
Hey, roast me. There's a lot of ammo, I think.
I got roasted twice last week. We went to the watch party at Richmond's, and two people thought Mike was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It was a little strange. It was a little weird, but hey, it is what it is. I was going to say, use the super chats to tell us what goals were better.
Oh, I do like that. That's a good way to do that.
And we'll probably talk about them. I mean, that's the whole point, right? You get them on the show. I mean, the first one that comes to my mind, I thought you were going to talk about the Kadri goal against Pittsburgh last year in the Mika Kiprasov game.
That was a good one.
But I mean, to me, the last goal that the Flames scored like that is just instantly memorable on the highlight reels was that Tkachuk between the legs goal against Nashville. Just sort of instantly recognizable.
Yeah, he was under their skin that game.
That was, and this one, I mean, I don't know if it, the Flames aren't as good, obviously. There's not a whole lot at stake necessarily in a December game against, who are they even playing tonight? I totally forget. I don't even care. But, there's not a whole lot of stake when the Flames are playing whoever they played tonight. But, it's still a very memorable goal. And it was an amazing play, really. Nazem Kadri just sort of fighting his way through. I still don't know what necessarily happened to JJ Moser, but just something really memorable out of that game.
All right. Now we got to tear this shit apart.
Yeah.
All right. So we have the numbers for Dan Vladar. 8 goals against on 26 shots. That is a .692 save percentage coming right after he earned this start. He, without a doubt, earned this start after his performance in Nashville, knowing that the Flames were just so bad on the road. They finally got 4 goals. There were promising moments throughout the game for Dan Vladar. I don't know that the numbers are totally indicative of how they played. They are straight up not good enough, but I don't know if I could name a Flames defenseman who is doing a B or better job in front of him.
All 6 were just awful tonight. It just was not a good night. I thought Mackenzie Weegar had his worst game as a Flame. I mean, his partner didn't help him much. Miramanov on that 8th goal. Oh, that was rough. But all game long, I thought Weegar was just a liability, which has not been the case for a lot of this season. But I just didn't like any of the 3 defensive pairs tonight. And you have lots of different rotations that you can make. You have 2 extra defenders. You have lots of guys tearing it up down in the American League. But it's just, I did not like any of their defensemen tonight. They really struggled. And, Vladar, I think you can sort of pin, I think the 3rd goal, it was a bit of a softie, but ultimately he was fine in the first period. He had a lot of, really strong reactionary saves on quick passing plays by Tampa Bay, plays that Calgary just was not making throughout this game. And ultimately he allows 8. His save percentage dropped by 12 percentage points in this game, went from 897 to 885, which is only 2 points better than he managed all last year. But yeah, it's not, I don't come out of this game saying, oh, they lost because of Vladar. I think they lost because their defense was just not there.
There was also, some of the goals come on the power play. A lot of them were on odd man rushes. You and I disagreed during the game.
Yes.
After the 2 power play goals, you thought Vladar should have been pulled then. I didn't agree, but why did you think then?
I just thought it was it was just coming so quickly. And it was 3 goals against on a 4-shot span, and I get 2 of them are on power plays, and the Flames didn't even have a single power play in this game. And ultimately, you know what? The Flames, they bounced back a little bit after that one. They scored back-to-back goals pretty quickly there, and they didn't make that goaltending change. So you might have been right, but ultimately, I just thought at that point maybe that was the spark they needed. In the end, I'm kind of looking back on it now as a whole game. I'm kind of glad Wolf didn't get involved in that, because it was just not a game that was going well for anybody. But at the time, I was just kind of like, maybe that's the spark they need. But ultimately, you're going into Saturday's game now with Wolf having the opportunity where, maybe he sort of says, okay, maybe it's not just me having these big blow up games, because obviously Wolf's last game didn't really work out for him either. So it's kind of funny, you talk about riding the hot hand in net. Well, what happens when neither of your goaltenders has the hot hand? It's sort of the opposite of what we saw at the start of the year, and it's just the way she goes.
I just thought the way the goals were coming at that point, I don't think a couple of quick power play goals is where a guy gets the hook. If you're looking for the spark, I think that's where you start with calling the timeout.
Yep. And they didn't do that either.
No. And then I thought, well, if you really want to go for a goalie change, I thought if you were going to do it, that's definitely a situation where intermission probably makes more sense.
Sure.
And they weren't going to do it at that point, because by the time we got to that second intermission, it's 4-3, and it's a good game. And this is a Flames team that has struggled to score. Are you that confident, if you're going to yank Vladar in the third, that the Flames are even going to be able to muster one additional goal? I didn't think it mattered who was in net at that point. So why make both goalies feel bad?
Absolutely.
Vladar's going to be beating himself up over this for sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, by the time that it got to the intermission, no question. Like, you got to stay with what's going well at that point. I just thought it was, you made a good point. I think it's kind of funny that they didn't use either of those bullets. I get it. You're not going to pull a goalie, but you're not going to call a timeout. You still have to, reckon with the fact that you're taking all these penalties, and kind of lazy ones too. I mean, we talked about Kadri off the top, how he scored that amazing goal. Other than that goal, he was, I think, just okay in the aggregate. And that one penalty that he took, just flipping the puck straight into the stands. I mean, holy moly, that entire shift for Nazem Kadri was just as egregious as it gets. So I think it was just a combination of a lack of focus, being outmatched by a Tampa Bay team that I don't know gets enough credit for being, having had a good offseason, sort of restructuring itself. It's easy to point at, oh, they lost Stamkos. Was it for the greater good? I don't know. It's going to be curious to see, because Gensel's had an amazing season, and he was amazing tonight. I don't know, but I just don't think Calgary's in that league, and it really showed.
How many players are Tampa Bay sending to Four Nations? Goodness gracious. And they all looked nasty tonight.
And neither of they got 2 Russians who are at the very top of their roster, and they're not even eligible. So you really think about it. I mean, that is a really sneaky deep team.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at how it all began, because it looked like Calgary was in for a good night, because a broken play saw Calgary strike first off the worst 2-on-1 we've ever seen. And it started when Jake Bean couldn't hold the line, and he really had to back check hard to try to salvage that, but he's able to pop the puck up to Kadri. He gets it to Pospisil, creates that 2-on-1 with Huberdeau, and that was a serviceable bounce that they got. But Huberdeau, hey, Barry's with his 11th. I guess he's on pace for 30, and that is a 6-game point streak for him.
It's a miracle that Jonathan Huberdeau is scoring at this clip. He is scoring at a genuinely impressive clip. I mean, not relative to his cap hit, but relative to the team. He's just kind of doing what he can right now, because nobody else. I mean, you can go down the list of the forwards on this team who are not contributing offensively. Blake Coleman, Michael Backlund, Yegor Sharangovich, I already said Blake Coleman, Andrei Kuzmenko. And then you have Huberdeau, who has always been sort of the lackey, the whipping boy, and he's kind of turning that a little bit on its head. I mean, he's not getting the assists, but he's on pace to sort of tie his best goal scoring season of his career, which is kind of strange. So, but yeah, I sent a message in the group chat that we have for Afterburner when this goal was scored, saying the Flames just scored on the worst 2-on-1 I've ever seen. And I just don't understand. I mean, it was Ryan McDonough, I think, who swept the puck off of Marty Pospisil's stick, and it goes right to Huberdeau, and he's just kind of like, okay. It's just the kind of goal that sort of sums up the Flames tonight, where they score 2 goals off of just bonkers, ridiculous, fortunate plays, and aside from that, they don't really muster up anything on their own.
And then right after that, I thought previously the Flames were doing like a really good job of kind of taking it to
Sure.
Kucherov and making him less effective. And then, oh my gosh, Huberdeau, that turnover at the blue line, clear cut breakaway for Kucherov. He made it look so easy to tie it up. They were talking on the broadcast that Huberdeau was giving Pospisil the gears about that pass.
Oh no.
Saying that there wasn't enough time and space. Like I can't read his lips on the bench,
Johnny.
but they were talking about that. I'm like, I don't know about that, man.
No.
You can move your feet. You can move your feet.
Yeah. You said it while we were watching this game that Huberdeau and Kadri both kind of canceled out their own goals with gaffes of their own. Huberdeau, in this case, that pass was just not there. And Nikita Kucherov is one of the last players you want to give a breakaway to, one of the best offensive players in the world. And that's, one of the many goals tonight that Dan Vladar really didn't stand much of a chance on.
The next one was one where I didn't think there was much of an excuse for. This was the first Jake Gensel goal. It was such a clear shot. It didn't look deflected. Vladar wasn't necessarily screened. I think he just missed.
He just missed. Yeah. We were saying that at the time. It was just, it was almost like, because I think Anderson was the defenseman in front of Gensel, and he kind of got out of the way of Vladar's sightline before the shot was even taken. Vladar just kind of waved at it, and that's sometimes what happens. But on a night like this, that just kind of got the snowball rolling for Tampa Bay in a big way in that second period. And, those third and fourth goals maybe weren't as much on Vladar, but I don't know if Tampa Bay necessarily gets into the rhythm to score them without that first goal going in the second period.
Yeah. And then right after that, this is where we have the 2 power play goals. First one, hometown boy, Braden Point. I loved when he was celebrating. They cut to the shot of his mom in the stands, and she's wearing her signed.
Yeah. It's like, hey, son, can you autograph this for me? Like, it's
I
almost
wonder
like,
how that all goes down.
did she get it at an auction or something? Like, that's the only thing that I can think of.
Yeah, or did he just did she have the jersey and he just decided this would be a nice thing for me to do? Anyway, Braden Point has more than half of Tampa Bay's power play goals this year.
Yeah, he's amazing. He really is. I mean, you wish the Flames would get a player like that at that point in the draft, like Tampa Bay did. And obviously the Flames had the chance to get him back in 2014. They didn't. And I think they still rue that to this day, because Point is just an incredible player. And on that sort of shot, Vladar, I mean, he allows 8, but that one's not on him.
Yeah, then we have maybe the most untimely delay of game penalty.
Oh.
And Kadri didn't even fight it. He just sock out, and he's like, yeah.
Well, Kadri, I mean, our buddy Kent Wilson described that to me during the game as a James Neal shift. Because Kadri just had a horrible turnover at the offensive blue line around 15 seconds before that. And then he gets the puck back in the D zone, and it's just, I don't know what was going on there. He fired it right into the 8th row. Nobody really all that close to him, and Tampa Bay makes him pay.
Yeah.
Just kind of like that.
Actually, I'm just going to jump on this here. Mickey O, talking about Braden Point, too small for the NHL. He'll never make the show. Lest we forget, 79th overall, was it, in the 2014 NHL draft? Good thing the Flames picked Brandon Hickey, Mason McDonald, Hunter Smith. A lot of names that don't turn blue on Wikipedia ahead of him.
No. Yeah, that's one of the more egregious ones ever for the Flames. I mean, you hope the nice thing about their 2024 draft, just to go back to some positives, is there are early signs of maybe they did that in reverse, and we won't know for years and years yet. But they deserve something after that. And that's really all I got to say, because that's just one of the worst misses.
Hell yeah.
Ugh.
Back to more pain. Right after that, Seravalli just gets behind Pahal. And of course, that leads to the Kadri goal that we talked about earlier. And then boom, 4-3. We've got a game. Blake Coleman, who's just generally always really fun and good to watch.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to get down the ice pretty good. He has 4 defenders clocking him at this point. Flips across ice for Zary, does snipe, top shelf, maybe it caught someone's stick, but that's a 4-game point streak for Zary. And that's where we had hope. And
It was
that's
taken
all.
away. It was vacuumed out, siphoned out of the Saddle Dome relatively quickly. First minute of that third period, Cami. Oof.
Yeah, that was Hagel.
Yeah.
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 And then my notes for Gensel's second goal, Flames defensemen all fired.
Yeah, they're all blending together. I don't.
Yeah.
The only one I remember vividly from the third period is the one where Miramonov took the slap shot at the offensive blue line, and then he goes back to his bench to get his stick, and he drops it, and that gives Tampa Bay a 2-on-1, and they just tap it in. And I there were points in this game where I thought Miramonov was maybe their least worst defenseman, and that's not a very high bar because I thought they were all awful. But that was just like the icing on the cake. They all kind of had their one ludicrous gaffe at various points in that game. I mean, I like individually, I think all 6 of these defensemen, or I have liked them all at various points this year. Quite frankly, more often than not, I've liked the defensemen more than the forwards. But tonight, holy moly, they were just awful, and there's no sugarcoating it.
Yeah, Gensel finished the hat trick. We're going to talk about Connor Geekie because he was the
Yeah.
most fun part of this game to watch, but that's how we got there. 8-3. It sucked.
It was just appalling. I mean,
But
awful.
yeah, you know who doesn't suck?
Connor Geekie. Yeah, we like him a lot.
I was going to say our boy Derek Newman.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
But also Connor Geekie.
Connor
We'll talk
Geekie.
about Derek first, and then we'll get to you, Connor.
Just yeah, you go.
Things we know about Derek: born and raised in Calgary, family oriented, avid golfer, scratch golfer, diehard Flames fans, volunteer in the community. He will get it done for you start to finish if you're looking at buying or selling your home. He does it all. He does the complimentary in-home staging consultation, really low pressure and easy to work with, which is huge. It's such a stressful process and you really need someone like that, but accountable, available. And he does the pre-listing consult. He has access to find homes off the market and go the extra mile to hunt down some options for buyers. And he'll answer when you'll call. He'll return your texts. I don't do that, but Derek does. So if you're interested in buying or selling your home in the greater Calgary area, give our pal Derek Newman a shout at 403-619-6661. He'll make it easy for you. Let him put his network to work for you. Connor Geekie worked so dang hard tonight. He was so fun to watch. He should have had 6 points.
That was quite the segue. Wow, getting right into it. I like it. Yeah, he was great. He was somebody who, I mean, he's somebody who I've always liked. They got to have the old Arizona connection. I did not like when Utah traded him. I thought it was a piece that they should not have moved, let alone adding on JJ Moser, who is a very good player in his own right. But Geekie, you know, I feel like some fans have always kind of underrated him because of his brother, Morgan Geekie, who is more of a sort of a middle 6 checking type. But Connor, I mean, he's got that size, he's got that speed, he's got so much skill, and oh wow, he was good tonight. He was just making moves through the middle of the ice and just getting around those Flames defenders like they were nothing. And he gets rewarded. He got the 8th goal, and he looks to me like I was talking about earlier how Tampa Bay, I thought, did a really good job this summer of retooling and figuring out what they needed to address and adding, in my estimation, one of the better young center prospects in the league. And you obviously have seen a lot of him in the WHL and in the NHL. I mean, he goes straight from the dub to the NHL. And to me, I don't think he looks like he missed much skipping the AHL, because he, to me, looks like already a top 9 center.
No, and I don't love seeing guys rush it thinking they should be full-time NHLers as a teenager and when you're 20. I generally think like you need time to cook.
Yeah.
But he's been nuts. And also like a fun thing about the Geekies. So when he got here, he didn't just come to Calgary, he went down to Okotoks. So
yeah,
all of the Geekies, all the brothers are really big into hockey. Obviously, Morgan's in the NHL, but their other brother, Noah, he was a hitman, a draft pick back in the day, but he ended up going the baseball route, won a couple WCBL championships with the Dogs, and now he's an assistant coach with the Dogs Academy.
Yeah.
So they had they had Connor down there at Seaman Stadium. And if you watch sometimes when they're doing the scrums, you'll see Morgan or Connor rocking that Okotoks dog strip.
Shameless plug. I call games for the Dogs. You should go see some games. They're a good team. Not right now.
It's a good way to Good way to spend the summer. I feel
It's
like
a
every
great
time
time.
I have a margarita there, though, I start at the top of the berm, and by the end, I've just like slid to the bottom of the berm.
The press box in Okotoks is not air conditioned, and it is just windows. The entire, all of them, because it has to be, right? It's the entire way across. No AC, and boy, it can lead to some real sticky situations. I'll just put it at that. But holy moly, those are some great games to go to. And yeah, Noah's a good guy. Yeah.
How does your home run call compare to a hockey goal call?
Ooh, you know what? It's kind of funny because the Dogs games that I did this past season, I kind of jumped in maybe midway through. They, for some reason, did not hit very many home runs when I was playing. They a lot of strikeouts, and I love calling strikeouts. But
It's also a really big ballpark. I remember when
it's amazing.
It's a tough place to get a home
Well,
run.
topical. So Interstellar is playing in IMAX right now, and people should go see it. It's an amazing movie. But at the beginning of the movie, the New York Yankees are playing sort of as like an exhibition team, like the Savannah Bananas. And the baseball stadium that they filmed at is in Okotoks. It's the Siemens Stadium. That's in the movie. True.
We should have like a movie list of all the places where Calgary's been featured.
So many. Yeah. So a lot of Interstellar at the start of that movie is in Okotoks and like High River and surrounding areas. It's true.
Lovely super chat here from Arthas. Gould and Cami looking good tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, champs are recapping this brutal loss. True. Wolf needs to start next. Also, which is better tonight? Kadri tonight or Toffoli when he got traded here with his first goal?
That's a really good callback. That was the Johnny flip pass to Toffoli coming in with 1 foot. I think that was against Columbus, I want to say, or I think that was a really cool goal. That's an excellent shout. And it was funny because if you remember back then, Toffoli was a little bit underwhelming in his first, 20 odd games, and even into the playoffs, he was really streaky. It was the next year that he had the real amazing season with 73 points and he led the team in scoring. But that first game, Toffoli, just getting up to speed after playing on a Montreal team that, just was not up to snuff comparably. And that goal was maybe one of the most exciting times to watch the Flames in the last 5-10 years. Just that sort of encapsulation of they finally went for it. They added a big piece, arguably the biggest piece of that trade deadline for anybody. And yeah, that's a great shout. That's a really great shout.
Yeah, good pull, Arthas. We did have another super chat that I want to ask you about. This is from our friend Bob.
Yeah.
We already mentioned that we do think that the next game up against the Panthers is going to be Dustin Wolf's game, but there is this young buck down in the AHL who is 14-3-0 with a .942 save percentage and a 1.8 goals against average. What do you think about Devin Cooley getting a look?
I don't know what I think. I kind of go back and forth on it. I think he is an amazing story, and I think he's been incredible. I think there needs to be something said about how the Wranglers, in my opinion, have maybe the best collection of defensive talent I have seen on an American League team in the last, 5 years at the very least. You look at the number of players on that American League team who would have a chance to be in the NHL in other organizations right now, whether it's Solovyov or Poirier or Kuznetsov or Brustevich, even a guy like Artem Grushnikov. Jared Tenori played in 50 NHL games last season. So I think part of it is the Wranglers are just unbelievably stacked defensively. At the same time, you don't put up a .942 save percentage by accident. And you can have all the great defensemen in the world down there, but at the same time, Valtteri Ignatieff does not have a .942. It's Devin Cooley who does. So he is really close to the AHL record for a single season best save percentage. And if anybody in the comments can tell me who holds that record, I might donate a $5 super chat myself. So if anybody can tell me who holds the American League record for single season save percentage, I'll give you a hint. He's from Invermere, BC. So we'll see if anybody can figure that one out.
Coots Roots.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Devin Cooley, I mean, once it sort of goes back to the conversation about whether they will trade Dan Vladar. Because I mean, 885 Dan Vladar is not as easy to trade as 907 Dan Vladar. but ultimately you can't. It's still such a small sample size. I don't necessarily know when or if it's going to happen or, what the scenario is going to be. Now that Mackenzie Blackwood's off the market, though, he's kind of maybe the top goalie of option available. So I still think they're going to ride it out until Vladar gets moved, if he does. And that's when I think you'll see Cooley come up. But I mean, again, it's a great story. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that one game like this would necessarily completely torch Dan Vladar's draft stock. I think like if you're looking at any goalie's numbers, like automatically you knock out the worst game.
Yep. That's fair.
And the best game.
Yeah. But at the same time,
because these aren't necessarily the games where you learn the most about a player.
Certainly not. But over like you think about it, over like a 30 or 40 or 50 game stretch for any goaltender, they might not have an 8 goals against game, but they're going to have a few stinkers in there. Right. And it kind of evens out. And you go back over the last 2-3 seasons. And I think Vladar has trade value. Absolutely. I just don't know if I'm necessarily convinced that it's going to be as much as certain people think. But we'll see. It's still pretty early. And I think we're going to see Cooley at some point. He's just playing too well. When you play that well, and this extends to guys like Rory Cairns and William Stromgren too, at a certain point, you just become undeniable, even if it's only for a few games. You kind of have to see what you have. I think that'll happen eventually.
If you're going to talk about trade value, does Kuzmenko have trade value right now?
No.
After another, that was interesting.
I go back to like when the Flames traded David Jones to the Minnesota Wild, and they got a 6th round pick and the contract of Nicholas Backstrom back for him. And I think that year, at least Jones had 9 goals. Kuzmenko has 1. And it's just kind of like, oh, wow. I don't know if I didn't necessarily expect Kuzmenko to score at near a point a game clip like he did at the end of last season.
He didn't have a shot tonight in 15 minutes of ice time.
He's not shooting. It was Derek Wills. I was listening to the game on the radio a few weeks ago who said it was a game against Ottawa. And he said, Travis Hamonic looks more comfortable shooting the puck than Andrei Kuzmenko does right now. And he wasn't wrong because Kuzmenko isn't shooting. He's barely controlling the puck. And I can't see any team trading for that contract. It doesn't make any sense to me unless there's something, big coming back the other way in terms of an undesirable piece. And why would you even do that? Right. So I just can't see it. He would need to figure it out right away and go on a run for a sustained period of time because there's just nothing right there with Kuzmenko right now.
You know who I did really like tonight, and he actually had a really scary moment. I had a lot of fun watching Martin Pospisil.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I like that entire top line for, long stretches of this game, and I've liked them for the last few games. I mean, much has been said about Huberdeau and Kadri finally finding chemistry, and Pospisil is picking up points too. I mean, I think you kind of go back to the archetype established with, and I'm not comparing Huberdeau and Kadri to Gaudreau and Monahan, but whenever Gaudreau and Monahan were at their best, they kind of always had that agitator with them almost. Like, I mean, the best instance of that is Michael Furland when he was sort of at his best. And Marty Pospisil, I don't know if he has that same necessarily goal scoring ability that Michael Furland did, but he is sneaky good when it comes to, winning those battles along the boards, making quick touch passes. I think it is better for now that he is back on the wing. I think it gives him less to do. I think it gives him less to think about. And he's been really good of late.
If we're going to go back to like an agitator with Monahan Gaudreau, I really liked Yuri Hudler.
Yeah.
I mean, no shoe mess.
Yeah.
I thought Pospisil was a lot of fun tonight. He was around it. He was buzzing. There was that really scary moment where his leg took the full brunt of a Rasmus Anderson shot. He was in pain.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
No, that looked awful. I was actually really surprised that he came back.
Yeah, it didn't look good. And I wonder if it's going to hurt him a little bit more tomorrow. We'll see. I hope he's all right.
His leg's going to look like Tom Wilson's face.
Oh, God, don't even. His like broken sinus bone. Oof.
Yeah, and his face looked like when Sidney Crosby pretended that he didn't have the mumps.
Yeah, that was my first thought too. It was just, it was all inflated. It was like, well, it kind of goes back like you talk about Pospisil leaving and then coming back. And I was again wondering if we were going to see him for a while. I wonder though, just in general, if we're going to see any changes to the lineup, if we're going to see any players coming out, if we're going to see any going in, because to me, I think Jacob Pelche deserves to go back in. I mean, to me, after a game like that, it should be very easy to find a spot for a player like that in the lineup. And I thought the fourth line was not nearly as effective as it was when he was on it tonight versus the last few games. And that's, I don't necessarily think that Ryan Lomberg is bad. I just think Pelche offers something a little bit different. So I'm kind of curious to see what they do there. And I think they kind of have to make a change on defense after just how putrid that entire defense core was tonight.
Yeah. And I thought Lomberg was, again, like he's around it all, tons and tons of energy. What do we talk about every single time with him? It just like oozes off of the guy. I wonder if they were banking on dad's strength.
Yeah. I didn't
for
really
him.
see
We
it
always
tonight.
see those great moments where, guys have a kid and they're back in the lineup so quickly and they're just running on like pure adrenaline and they usually get an assist or something out of it. And
it just
didn't
wasn't
happen.
there as much, but it is what it is. I mean, there are so many issues that I had with the entire lineup tonight. I mean, Sharon Govich, I thought was not effective. I didn't
notice him at all.
No, I didn't think the fourth line was that good. I didn't think Backlund was very good. I just, it kind of gets repetitive. You can go down this list. There's not a whole lot of positives to glean.
Honestly, all the centers were a letdown tonight.
Yeah.
Look at those
talking
stats.
About faceoffs.
Tampa Bay won almost 63% of the faceoffs.
Yeah.
That's nuts. They
Not
scored
good.
on 100% of their power plays.
Now, I need to give somebody a shout out. So going back to when I asked about which player holds the record for the best single season American Hockey League save percentage, and somebody did get it right. There were a lot of guesses. Somebody guessed Brent Cron, which is a great guess. Somebody guessed Carey Price, not quite. The answer is Wade Dubielwich. So there you go. New York Islanders legend, if anybody watched that 2007 season. Got them into a playoff spot. So that's correct. So I will try and figure out if I can make this super chat thing work. Just for you, Dan, although you didn't spell his name right, but I'm still going to give you that $5. So there you go.
Okay, I don't think spelling is Dan's strong suit.
Oh,
I also think it's past Dan's bedtime. So
yeah. Go to bed, Dan.
Hit it, mister.
Yeah. There you go. What else do we got?
Is there anything? Is there anything good? Actually, you know what? There was something really lovely that I think we should take some time to talk about. There was a really special kid at the Dome tonight. So 11-year-old Easton Beach is undergoing treatment for brain cancer. So not only did he get to meet the Flames today, he got to go see the Lightning, get on the ice. He led the final stretch up morning skate and even did media with John Cooper. So Easton is from Calgary, but he's undergone treatment in Florida to get, I think it's proton therapy, it's called, for medulloblastoma. So his oncologist in Florida actually had the same type of brain cancer as Easton as a kid and beat it. So hope there, but the Lightning organization has had nothing but time for Easton's family. He's been around them a whole bunch. He's skated with them. He's got the sign stick from Stamkos, all of it. So even though he recently relapsed and he's on a treatment schedule, he's still been able to play minor hockey this year. I met Easton and his mom, Amanda. So they have lots of ties with the volleyball community here as well. So super sweet family. We're rooting for them. Glad the teams are always ready to come together to support a kid who deserves all the love and support in the world. So we're actually going to watch a video that Tampa Bay put together for today.
This is Easton.
Easton, what position are you?
Defense.
What can you bring tonight?
He's taking the Chernak's spot.
Yeah?
Yeah, his favorite player.
Kucherov, Point, and Hedman.
Gives you shivers down your body a little bit thinking about it. I mean, those kids are fighting for their life, and all they want to do is get out there and play the game they love. I asked him what his favorite part was. He said scoring goals, and I said winning's fun too, and he laughed. And he said yes. I couldn't imagine what he's going through. That's a fight that not many people want to be in, but we're right there with him and supporting him, and going to try everything we can to put that smile on his face and help him get through that.
That was
hits
great.
it right in the fields. But
Yeah.
that is our Alberta Blue Cross meaningful moment of the week. So if you're planning a trip, just make sure you remember to pack travel insurance from Alberta Blue Cross. When you have Canada's most trusted travel insurance in your back pocket, you can focus on making the right kind of memories while you're away. And you can visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel for more information. Well, I think we've pretty much beat almost everything we can out of this game. How are you feeling about seeing Zane Parekh at World Juniors camp now?
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, I think they kind of came to their senses a little bit. I think it's a really interesting opportunity. Now, I heard he was just okay in their game today. I think he was paired with Sawyer Minio, the Vancouver Canucks prospect. They were playing
Out of
against
Seattle, yep.
they were playing against the U Sports. I think he was skating with Sam Dickinson in their practice yesterday. So I think he's going to have an uphill battle. Obviously, he wasn't one of their first 10 selected. So you got to sort of go into that camp with the mentality of, I got to prove you wrong. And again, they got lots of guys who they like. So he may not get there in the end, but it's an encouraging sign that they invited him after, Brunicky gets hurt. And I think he has the talent to force his way on. It's just if he can show it over this small sample size, because ultimately small sample size is exactly what the World Juniors is all about.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. It was 2-1 for U Sports going into the third period tonight, in the first of their 2 tune-up games then. 4-goal third period for the World Juniors hopefuls. Powered them over. They're going to have the second of the 2 games tomorrow, and then we could see our final roster as soon as Friday night.
I think Beckett Seneca is the better bet to force his way onto the team out of the 2 who were the late adds, because he scored a goal today, and I just think, I mean, in terms of making yourself undeniable, he kind of did with his play after the initial snub. But Parekh, he is an unbelievably talented player, and you go back to the last 10, 12, 14 games that he's played with Saginaw, his point production has been outstanding. So I don't know if they're going to use him, if they want to, maybe use him as a power play quarterback, if that role is there even. But it's better than not being there at all. So I think it's obviously an encouraging sign.
What kind of role do you think Parekh is fighting for on that team?
It's tough.
Because we know even Braden Yeager came out and said this isn't an all-star team. People need to be willing to take on whatever role they need to in order to win. Paraphrasing a little bit there, but that's kind of the gist of what he put out there after a really disappointing quarterfinal loss where, Canada didn't medal last year.
Yeah. Well, it's tough. And I think, perception-wise, publicly, there's a lot of people who are like, well, Sam Dickinson's this two-way dynamo and Parekh's so one-dimensional. I don't know if the gap is as big as that, the point disparity might make it seem. I mean, I think ultimately they're going to have Oliver Bonk play with Dickinson just because they played together with London. And after that, I mean, it was kind of an interesting tell to see that Bo Akey didn't play today, the Edmonton Oilers prospect, who's, also an offensive guy. And that kind of makes you think, okay, maybe he's already got a spot. And if he's got a spot, well, that's the spot that I would kind of think Parekh might have. But I almost wonder if they take him as the 7 and just say, okay, this is kind of our wild card. If anything starts to go south, maybe we just kind of see what happens. It kind of reminds me of when Team Canada took PK Subban to the 2014 Olympics, and they didn't end up needing him very much because they played a very clinical style of game that didn't really lend itself to what Subban was as a player. But I just think it's nice to kind of have that ace in the hole. So I'm very curious to see how it all shakes out. I'm very curious to see, who ends up making it to the tournament healthy. I mean, it's not a given that everybody makes it there. So it's very much an unknown. I think just based on talent, I think he's one of the top 6 Canadian defenders, but again, it doesn't always work that way. So I'm very curious.
Yeah. I'm interested to see Nashville Predators prospect
Tanner
Tanner
Molendyk.
Molendyk. Oh, he broke his hand in pre-tournament last year, but he's like one of the best skating D-men out there. Mark my words.
Mm-hmm.
Hope he makes it. But that's what's going on with World Juniors right now, as that roster is about to get whittled down. we're going to take a look at what's ahead here for the Flames. This was the first of a 5-game homestand. That was very important. This is going to take the Flames into the Christmas break. Michael Backlund was talking about it this morning. This is where they could launch themselves into a playoff spot. They were tied with Vancouver in points at the start of the day for the second wild card, and off to a great start. So next up, we've got Kachuk Panthers Saturday night, 8:00 start. Ryan Lomberg facing his old team. Maybe a ring presentation.
That would be cool.
I remember it was so cool seeing Kadri's right after he got his a couple years ago with Colorado. That thing was like huge.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful ring, but Panthers still rolling. They had won 3 straight coming into tonight, facing off against the Canucks now. I don't have the final score on that one yet. Then we've got Lindholm and Zadorov returning to the Dome on Tuesday with the Bruins. They're hot now, 7-3 in their last 10. They're going to have 2 days off coming into Calgary. Lindholm is on pace for his least productive season since 2014, when he spent half the year with Carolina's farm team.
We're going to come back to that. Let's just keep going. But I want to talk about Elias Lindholm for a bit because holy moly.
He did have an assist on Marchand's OT goal when these teams met in November. Zadorov, there's been a lot of buzz about Canucks fans really wanting him back, so I guess he left quite an impression there. But then we're getting another Kachuk. We're going to get Brady. He's got a lot of buzz around him right now in the Rangers. Some soft tampering, allegedly. Allegedly, he's doing a lot of work. So that's on Thursday. There are 7 teams with 4 or fewer wins on the road this season. Calgary and Ottawa are 2 of them. So this one is big. And Drake Batherson is also hot right now, coming off the hat trick against Anaheim. And then we head into the break with the 2 p.m. matinee against Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks on Saturday, the 21st. Just fired Luke Richardson. Bedard has been open about wanting more in his sophomore season. He had a goal and an assist tonight the last time I looked, and former Flame TJ Brody coming through, scoring his first goal as a Hawk tonight.
Yeah, well, and then the next game after that, Max Celebrini, the next number 1 pick with a huge game, 2 goals and an assist. And I do like Bedard a lot as a player. I really do. I think he's a very different player than some of the other generational first overall picks that we have seen. And then when I watched Celebrini, I mean, I don't know if I have seen a prospect look quite this composed as a two-way player, as an 18-year-old in the NHL, just sort of getting his feet under him. He reminds me a lot of Crosby, just watching him the play style. I don't know if, like, there were obviously all the comparisons between McDavid and Crosby, and I think they're 2 incredibly different players. But watching Celebrini, I am amazed at how composed he is as an 18-year-old. And that Sharks team, I mean, they have some amazing young talent. So that's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah. So those are the next 4 games up, as the Flames will try to get something out of this homestand. It'll really tell us where they're at as we come back for a home stretch of the season. You can watch all those games over at Richmond's, the best neighborhood pub featuring sports. They have 22 big screens, so you can watch every game, pretty much every sport. They're going to have all of it. They put the sound up too, which is huge. They've got that awesome Johnny jersey hanging up as well. They've got Barn Burner Blonde, 6-shooter Sutter all day, super low price. Bud and Bud Light on special for $6 every NFL day as well. So Monday, Thursday, Sunday, and quite a brunch. All you can eat, $20. Comes with a Bud Light, a mimosa, or a Caesar.
That's an excellent deal. I
got all your food groups covered off there. So that is what's coming up next.
Dill pickle wings. You should get those. Were good.
They were
good.
They were well seasoned.
I liked them.
I get really angry when I get dill pickle wings that don't have enough seasoning on them and they just taste like nothing. No, that was.
I liked mine.
Great. Pike, can you give us a preview of what's going to be in your column tomorrow?
Oh, Pike, get out of here. Well, I wanted to. This is maybe a future column idea. So Pike, take this as a pitch right now. I wanted to go back to this. Elias Lindholm, 3 goals in 31 games, 13 points in 31 games. He has 6 years left after this one in his contract. And the hot take that I have is that I would not trade Jonathan Huberdeau for him 1-for-1, even with that contract. I just think, I don't know. I mean, I think there are maybe a couple worse deals in the league, but that Elias Lindholm deal for Boston is just awful. I don't know what they were thinking. So that's my take. Would you trade Huberdeau for Lindholm? A couple of years ago, I would. I mean, they were on the same team, but now I don't know if I would. Like, ugh, that is just a terrible deal.
I don't know. That's breaking my brain.
Yeah. That's the thing with these bad contracts is the longer they go on, the less worse they are, right? Because they're closer to being over. So you can kind of start comparing them to the other bad deals that start trickling in and have their full freight left. And at this point, I don't know. I'd rather stick with the devil I know. And that's just the way that I feel about that. And capping it off, they got Zadorov on a 6-year
both
deal.
those devils, though.
You do. But at the same time, I don't know if I do know Lindholm at this point, because this player is just on the steepest downward trajectory I can remember for a player going back these last 2 seasons. It's just been a complete coin flip. I don't know. Too bold?
I mean, it is spicy.
It's spicy, but
No, it's not spicy. It's sad. I take that back.
Yeah, I don't like it. I liked Elias Lindholm a lot.
It's like those awful would you rathers.
I know.
That people always like present to you with no context.
Right now, when I watch Huberdeau, I kind of think the comp that I thought about the other day, and we're running long, but I won't keep this long. But I was thinking, he kind of reminds me a little bit of Marian Gaborik in that he was sort of this electric player on a bit of an anonymous team early on in his career, had sort of a Selke caliber Finnish center who, carried a lot of the weight and allowed him to get all those points, gets traded, kind of falls off the map. And I almost wonder Huberdeau for a little bit less money. Gaborik had sort of that second wind as a secondary player on a Kings team that won those Stanley Cups. I just wonder if Huberdeau was making 6 or 7 million playing for a team like Carolina or a team like Tampa Bay. I just wonder if there would be a really valuable player there. I just don't know. Maybe in a couple of years.
Are you saying he needs to get goalie flipped?
Maybe that's what I'm saying.
I'll think about it. All right. Last chance, friends, to get your thoughts and questions into us. We're going to come to those in a minute. First off, Mike, take us back to Bet365.
Yeah, let's go back to Bet365. We're going to talk about tomorrow's games. Tomorrow's game. Only one game. And it involves one of the teams that the Flames are going to be playing on their current homestand, the Ottawa Senators. Now, Cami, I don't know about you, but I live for these Ottawa-Carolina matchups. I'm trying to think of a player who played for both these teams. Patrick Eaves played for both these teams. It's the Patrick Eaves Bowl. And you can see here, I believe the Hurricanes, as you would expect, are the favorites. I would probably bet on the Hurricanes to win this game. And it's a game that, Cami, for my part, I plan and intend upon watching in full.
I don't know why you don't like these teams so much.
It's not that I don't like these teams.
Carolina.
It's just that I don't like these teams together. Look, I'd bet on Carolina. If you really got to get into that action, you can use that promo code Nation and take that Carolina bet and go hard. Hey, Ottawa has taken some strides. The one player who I'm kind of curious about on Ottawa is Shane Pinto, who has 3 points in 20 games this season. Talk about a player who might need a change of scenery, and the Flames need centers. That's a player who I'm kind of curious about. The other one who was mentioned today, not in Ottawa, but Mason McTavish. That's a player who I'm curious about in a big way. But yeah, Ottawa, Carolina. Go Carolina, I guess. But yeah, Shane Pinto, that's a name that I'm kind of curious about.
Interesting.
So there you go.
Moose is here, popping in at 10:49 p.m. Thoughts on the Kadri goal?
Hey, you know what?
We thought it was pretty good, man.
It was great. It was great. Go rewind. Maybe give us some super chats on the Nazem Kadri goal.
Yeah, last one for that. Oh, well, if this game made you crave the taste of a crispy cold one, we got you covered with Sober Carpenter craft beer reimagined. So this year, Sober Carpenter celebrates 5 years of brewing award-winning non-alcoholic craft beer. They've got it all from the hoppy IPAs to those rich Irish reds. We've got the flavor without the buzz.
That the buzz.
So, yeah, well, so you can enjoy it and then still manage to go home at a decent hour and sleep in your own bed, which is huge without spending $80 on an Uber. So
it's like Andy's room before Toy Story, without the buzz.
Very that. So they're at Sobeys and Loblaws, delivered right to your door, or at sobercarpenter.com, liquor stores across Alberta. So cheers to 5 years of staying true to the craft. Sober Carpenter.
Get
All
in
right,
there.
gang. Any questions, comments, concern? What can you hit us with before we wrap up?
Sober Carpenter was number 2 on my Spotify rap this year.
That's good. All right.
That was pretty good.
That's good.
That was pretty good.
That's good. What was number 1 on your Spotify
Chapel
rap?
Roan.
Huh?
Chapel Roan. That is such a good album. That was my number 1. But yeah, I like the bit that the Flames did. I think Jacob Pelche said that the one band that he wanted to ever go see live was Coldplay. So Jacob Pelche is living in 2003. No disrespect, I like Coldplay, but
Later than 2003.
yeah, sort of like around that time period, right? Like they had a few different eras. Wasn't Clocks around that time?
No, I remember they were on the Super Bowl halftime show when they got like totally upstaged by Beyonce.
Yes, that's right. That was like way later though. That was like, wasn't that like?
Well, they have put out more albums since,
that's true.
Michael.
That was like 10 years later. I'm old enough to remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not old enough.
I
to
can't
remember
say
a lot of that
anything.
stuff.
I'm pretty sure Two Door Cinema Club was my top.
Oof. No,
Don't what?
I'm kidding. That's a joke.
You're sick.
I know. I'm sorry.
All right, we got one pin comment here. Huge Flames fan from Houston. Can we get a quick December Cup
Wow.
match prediction?
Wow. Here's what I'll say. I will say I think Dallas will be there, and here's a bold take. I think Blake Coleman will be playing for them. There. How's that for it? So let's say Dallas, screw it, against Carolina. There you go. Gary Bettman's either his worst nightmare or his dream. That matchup. I don't know. The TV revenue wouldn't be maybe that great, but hey, Southern markets.
Cup final. Oh, I want like the most chaotic thing possible to happen. No, I don't think they're gonna.
Let's hear it. Washington.
Ugh. Yeah, Minnesota, Washington. So it's the game that I'm the least excited about.
Kaprizov against Ovechkin. That's a pretty good, parallel, comparable, storyline, sort of.
You got that, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, while we're on Spotify rap, I'm pretty sure Butthole Surfers. I love Houston. I'm pretty sure the Butthole Surfers are from there. That's Dracula from Houston and all that.
I don't know who those are.
What?
I'm
You don't
sorry.
know Pepper?
I know the Doctor. I am 24. I just said my top 2 artists were Sabrina Carpenter and Chapel Roan. I think there's a sort of an element of top
right.
40.
I think we
Let's
have
call
a
it.
little bit of a disparity here, and that makes me even more upset that
I'm
someone
sorry.
thought you were my boyfriend twice.
And
Moose
with that,
is here coming through with the hottest prediction of the night. Flames will win the cup. Boy, howdy. Let's hope this is the turning point where they have their St. Louis Blues moment and go from worst to first.
wouldn't that be something? I mean, I have been thinking for a while just about how wild and funny it would be to see what Jonathan Huberdeau can do for the Flames in the playoffs. It's just one of those like incompatible ideas. Like, I don't know. It's like thinking about Roman Chervenko winning the Stanley Cup or something. It just doesn't really compute in my brain, but it's just, sure, that would be a lot of fun. I'd be all for it.
Well, that's the mental image that Mike chose to leave you with. So thanks for coming and commiserating with us here tonight. Barn Burner's back tomorrow, and thanks for hanging out, friends.